Hi, I'm Matt, here in Michigan.
And I'm Randle here in Texas. Today, Matt and I are taking a flashback to 2005, and we're going to be taking a look at the video game based movie Doom. Doom stars Dwayne Johnson, Carl Urban, Rosamund Pike, and Raz Adoti, and it is directed by Andrei Bartkowiak, who is also known for Exit Wounds, Romeo Must Die, and Street Fighter. No, not that Street Fighter. Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li.
Think it's over?
No, I'm just getting started.
But before we get too far into this flashback review, remember if you do like this sort of video that you give the video a like. Those likes really help us out. If you want to see more, subscribe to the channel. And if you want to be notified, ring the bell icon.
Now, like Randall said, Doom is loosely based on the video game series of the same name, but in the movie, a team of space marines are sent to a science facility on Mars to investigate reports of a security breach. There, they find highly infectious humans who are turning into monsters. Now, Doom had a $60 to $70 million budget and earned less than $59 million at the box office. It has received poor reviews from both critics and audiences. Randall, believe it or not, this was actually my first time ever watching Doom the movie. I know if you've seen it before, what do you think about Doom?
Those critics and audience members don't know what they're talking about, Matt. Okay? Fools, all of them. Okay, let's be real here. I understand that Doom is not a great film. It's great. Fine. Okay, let's get that out of the way. I understand that it's got a loose, flimsy plot, and that it has, a pretty terrible script.
What the hell are we looking at? Genesis, chapter 1.
But I also understand that it's based on a 1990s video game, and as a video game adaptation, to actually even give it a plot, which the video game didn't have a super huge plot, I've always found Doom to be a pretty good representation. Not perfect, there's definitely faults, but pretty good representation of the video game that is trying to adapt into film. So I found that good, and there's actors in here that I really enjoy watching. I mean, Carl Urban's fun. The Rock is fun. This was one of his big first things that he did back then when he was still The Rock instead of just Dwayne Johnson. So there are definitely spots in here where I greatly enjoy what they did, and then there are spots in here where I'm like, oh god, that was bad. It was bad when it was new, and it's still bad. Matt, though, first time watching it, you don't have any nostalgia for it. I don't recall you ever playing Doom when we were younger, so what do you think about it?
Yeah, I did not like this movie. I did not like the dialogue. I didn't like the characters in this movie. I thought the story had some good ideas, but I don't think it was well executed. And sadly, for a movie based on a video game, you really want the action. I don't think the action is good enough in this movie to really save this movie for me. Have I played the Doom games? I've played the newer Doom games, both of the new ones, and the original Doom. I watched, our friend Chris, I think he played Doom quite a bit. I'm not really into the story of Doom, but to me, this movie felt more like Resident Evil than like a Doom movie with what we go with, where these creatures come from and stuff.
Yeah, I'm not saying that it's a perfect adaptation of the game, because, I mean, the thing is, in the original game, there really isn't that much story. It's more like get from point A to point B, shoot monsters in between. Okay. And obviously that just doesn't work for a movie, Army of the Dead. Which, by the way, there's a prequel coming out for. There's a trailer for it and everything. It's about the lock guy, the guy who opens safes. That's the prequel they're going with, I guess. Doom, I get you about the action. I really do, because I appreciate the first part of it being kind of dark, dreary. We don't really know what's going on. Almost a slight, small, slow burn. But then when you get into the monsters and everything, they show up so sparingly until the very end, and then all of a sudden it's a bunch of monsters, and then you get that what I perceived to be a pretty cool first person scene, perspective shooter. but doesn't age very well. Really, it's probably pretty cool in 2005. I could have done with a lot more monsters. I could have done with a lot more action, and it does kind of suffer from that.
I think for me, my biggest problem with this film is that I don't really care about any of the characters in this film. So I don't really care what goes on and is happening. One of the parts you're talking about how like the beginning is kind of like that dark and more like a slow burn where stuff is like happening in the shadows. If I was invested in the characters, I would maybe care what actually happens to them in the dark. But because I don't, there's no tension for me in those moments, kind of thing. At least for me, to be this movie did a not great job of setting up our characters at the beginning. We have our scenes like we see in other movies where it's like, hey, this is where we introduce you to the different Marines. And these are where all their different perks are. Or, what their personalities are. I don't think it does a good enough job. We even have a scene that's almost directly pulled from Predator when they're on like the transport ship or whatever, getting ready to go to the Ark and everything. And it's almost directly taken from Predator. We even get a pussy joke in it, like we have in Predator.
A couple days ago, I asked Sarge for a little pussy. And the next day, he brought you onto the team.
But to me, the only thing that it's successful at doing is showing how bad this movie is in comparison to the Predator. If you're gonna do a recreation of that or whatever, at least go as like a joke. But to me, it's kind of like, yeah, this is a much lesser film than a really good film that we're taking a look at, kind of thing.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I guess that's the thing about Doom is, from some perspective, it's a slight guilty pleasure film for me. Although we're not doing guilty pleasures again until April, so that's a ways off, okay? But like at the same time, I do constantly look back on it and think, okay, video game adaptations, early 2000s. What else did we have? There wasn't much. Mortal Kombat did okay, but Mortal Kombat Annihilation sucked. Resident Evil was fine, but like didn't follow the game at all. And then you had Resident Evil 2 came out before Doom came out, like Apocalypse or whatever. I can't keep track of the Resident Evil movies. They all have titles instead of numbers. And I'm like, okay, that one's okay, but it's not great. And then Doom comes out, and I'm like, I guess for early 2000s and like maybe going into the 90s video game adaptations, I always found Doom to be okay. I'm like, yeah, what it's trying to do is fine. It doesn't do any of it great. Like you said, it's a movie based on a first-person shooting video game with no real storyline, so they had to come up with a storyline. They had to come up with characters because there are no real characters. The main character in the video game's Doom Guy. That's his character. For coming up, all of that stuff was scratch. I just feel like even if I know deep down inside that the movie's crap and that the characters are crap and that the script is crap, I'm just like, it's still an okay video game adaptation. And Portman's fun to watch. He's the only character that's fun to watch.
Me, for the story-wise stuff, I already mentioned this, to me it felt like, more like Resident Evil kind of thing. I like kind of the idea of Doom being like, hey, we open a portal to like hell or something, and we have like Hellspawn coming out and stuff. Where this, it's like, hey, we found, an ancient civilization almost kind of thing, and we're using like their DNA to make like superhumans or super not humans, bad humans, because of their personal instinct. I could see some good things I like about that or whatever, but I just don't think it was like well executed. And talking like based on like a shooter and stuff too. We all talk about that scene. Even people who haven't seen that movie, where it's a first person shooter. I would be interesting if I could go back and watch that in 2005. And you already said that, hey, it probably doesn't age very well. To me, it seemed more like a rail shooter than me actually feeling like I was playing like Doom or whatever. Because the aliens, whatever you want to say, zombies, humans infected, whatever you want to say, they just kind of like pop up and then wait there to get shot. So to me, it's almost like, a rail shooter, or if you're going into like a haunted house kind of thing. And the other action scene that I was actually disappointed with was the big climax that we had between Carl Urban and The Rock, when The Rock pulls off that wire and wraps that wire around his hand and stuff, and it's clearly just a really bad prop, that completely ruined the whole thing for me for that final fight.
It is so corny. I guess I can laugh. I can laugh at it. I mean, that's not the end of the world, you know. I can laugh at it. Character wise, besides Portman, which I already pointed out, you know, like if everyone listened to Portman in this movie, everyone would have lived basically. I guess except for maybe Goat, you know.
We don't know what we're dealing with here. It's SOP to call in reinforcements when a situation...
We are the reinforcements.
No, we're not going to call in for reinforcements. But why not? That's what we should do in this situation. You're right. You're right. Call in all the Marines. There are monsters here. You know? So obviously that's just like, oh, the plot dictates that has to happen. His character's, you know, he's a slime ball in a sleaze bag and he doesn't care. He's a Marine. A bad guy, but at the same time, at least he's got like a character he's kind of fun to like watch. The rest of the characters are just, you know, caricatures. Oh, big tough guy, another big tough guy, pretty sister, you know. So I can see where you're coming at from the character perspective.
I feel bad for The Rock because, you know, a lot of times The Rock, he has like the same expression and like the big wide eyes and stuff. And we have a lot of like close-ups and stuff of The Rock. I'm just a little disappointed with it because, you know, even like now The Rock, you know, is a big movie star. And at that time, you know, he's coming off wrestling and stuff. But even then, he has so much of like a presence or whatever on camera and stuff that I'm actually a little bit disappointed with his character, where his character ended up going. To me, the best character was, I think, Carl Urban's character, and that's because we give a little bit of story to him or backstory. Though I don't know that I actually warmed up to it. A lot of times, you know, when we get like the big thing, like, you know, with Rosamund Pike and Carl Urban's character, where it's like, oh, I know you, you're my brother, you know, you are this good person, you're gonna be fine when I inject you with this thing that turns everyone else into monsters. Like, yeah, I only believe that because the movie's telling me that. I'm kind of with Carl Urban, kind of like questioning, like, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, to me, I guess that was kind of like a brighter spot, I guess. I don't know.
That role of Reaper was offered to The Rock, not Carl Urban, and he turned it down. The Rock turned it down. He said he didn't want it. He wanted this role of Sarge because he thought it was a more interesting character. You know, like he actually has something to him, which I guess from some perspective, he can go into deeper, darker places with that character instead of just being the good guy, basically. So yeah, I suppose. But yeah, he literally turned down the role of the main character, Reaper, but that didn't matter because then the film was all advertised on The Rock is in this film. It's like, yeah, but he's not the main character.
It's probably just where they're going, because The Rock, I guess you think more like action. And Carl Urban, yeah, I mean, he has more like sense and stuff with like Dread and, you know, like The Boys and stuff now. But I'm trying to think at the time, I think probably all I knew him from was like Lord of the Rings and stuff. So I don't know that I'd really make that connection if I'm a big like Doom fan, like, oh yeah, Carl Urban, yay!
you wouldn't know. Again, Doom guy.
Honestly, if they went full camp and just did that, I think I actually probably would have enjoyed this movie more. If they just had, heck, Doom guy. I mean, we do get fan service with the BFG, which is awesome, and I think was maybe a little underutilized in this film or whatever. I mean, if we actually saw The Rock blowing away more zombies or whatever with the BFG, I mean, that would have been even better. With this thing, with this premise, everything, go full camp with it.
You know, actually, there's a lot of fan service in this film. Like the Dr. Carmack, that's the creator of the Doom series. His name's Carmack. You know, that was actually just him. There's like itty bitty bits of fan service throughout this film, which is part of what makes it a good video game adaptation for me. It's the kind of fan service that only dedicated people are really going to catch, and if you're not into Doom, you just don't care. So it's not like Star Wars fan service where it's like, hey, look at that. No, seriously, look at it. Look at it. You know, that's a thing from the prequels. You know, not that kind of fan service. It's like, if you don't know, you do not know, basically. And they don't try and force you into knowing. So, but, you know, to your point, maybe, yeah, go full camp with it. Just be like, look, monsters exist, big guns, Marines, blah, 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 shoot them all. Like, maybe that is what this movie is missing a little bit of. I agree to your original point that it could have used more action. It could have used more monsters. It could have been more Doom than it was, and less Resident Evil. Sure, let's mix Resident Evil and Event Horizon, and, you know, open a portal to this hell landscape, and now we have to fight all these monsters. Go all in.
Me, all in all, I was a bit disappointed with this film. I can't really recommend seeing it, but, you know, for people with nostalgia for it and stuff, I can see why some people enjoy, you know, this film kind of thing too. Randall and I want to know what you guys think about this. Is this one of your guilty pleasure films? Let us know in the comments below. Also, be sure to check out some of our other reviews. We have other flashback reviews, new movie reviews, TV shows, and we also have deeper dive discussions.
We also have a Facebook page, so make sure to go check us out over there if you haven't already. We post on Facebook the day before what's going to be coming up next on YouTube. We also have a schedule in case you don't want to check us out on Facebook. We post new videos every Monday and Thursday, so be sure to go check them out. For now, I'm Randall here in Texas. Stay doomy, everybody.
And I'm Matt here in Michigan. Have a good day, everyone. Next time on No Market Media. Please consider checking out some of our other videos.